My husband, Charlie, 26M, my sister-in-law, Cheryl, 28F, and I, 26F, all went to high school together, which is how we know each other. Charlie and I were in the same year and are high school sweethearts. We started dating in our sophomore year and have been together ever since. With Cheryl, however, it was a different story. I would describe us as high school nemesis since she always hated me, and the feelings were mutual. Cheryl was 2 years older than us, making her a senior when we were sophomores. This didn't stop her from being a total jerk to me at all times. She was a notorious bully, and sadly, she hasn't changed much since then. In high school, Cheryl and her clique were feared by everyone. They spread nasty rumors and did mean things to anyone who dared to cross them. Some people were even driven to change schools because of their antics. I'm not exaggerating. They were that bad. However, I was one of the few who stood up to her. Since I had been friends with her brother Charlie for a long time, I wasn't intimidated by her. Even before I started dating Charlie, I would often go over to their house and hang out. To me, Cheryl wasn't an untouchable entity. She was just another kid. It's how I think everyone should have seen her, but high school is a strange place. I wasn't scared of Cheryl, and after I started dating Charlie, I became even bolder. She had no authority over me. Fast forward a few years, and Cheryl is now my sister-in-law, but our relationship hasn't improved much. In fact, a prank I played on her ended up exposing her affair with one of Charlie's friends, sparking a family feud and getting her cut from the will. Here's how it all went down. I had this idea of playing a harmless prank on Cheryl by giving her a pregnancy book. It was meant to be a joke, but it accidentally uncovered her secret affair. When she received the book, her reaction was bizarrely defensive, which aroused suspicion. Eventually, it came out that she was involved with one of Charlie's friends, and this revelation led to a massive family fight. Cheryl's infidelity was the last straw for the family, especially given her history of being a bully. The family decided to cut her from the will, which intensified the already simmering tensions. The whole incident was surreal, considering our rocky past and how a simple prank unraveled such a significant family issue. Despite the chaos, Charlie and I remain strong together. Our high school years may have been filled with drama, but they've only strengthened our bond over the years. During Cheryl's senior year, most people were terrified of her. I guess my decision to challenge her status didn't sit well with her, and she ended up doing something really horrible to me. One morning in high school, I opened my locker as usual, only to be drenched in fish water and dead fish. I was covered from head to toe in that disgusting, slimy mess. It was embarrassing and humiliating, and I was so upset that I had to go home for the rest of the day. I couldn't directly trace the incident back to Cheryl, but I was certain it was her doing. Just the day before, we had a nasty verbal fight in the cafeteria, where I called her a brain-dead zombie in front of her friends. Some of them even chuckled at the remark. Obviously, she couldn't let that go unpunished, so she retaliated by pulling this horrible prank on me. Even Charlie suspected his sister was behind it. After the locker incident, he confronted Cheryl, and they ended up having a big fight. While he couldn't get her to apologize to me, he managed to make her back off. After that day, Cheryl and I never spoke to each other again. Despite Charlie and I being together for so long, things have remained the same between Cheryl and me. Last year, Charlie and I got married, which brought Cheryl and me into the same family. A few weeks after the wedding, my in-laws sat Cheryl and me down for a talk. They acknowledged our past differences, but emphasized that we needed to make an effort to be civil since we were now family. They pointed out how everyone had noticed that Cheryl and I didn't speak to or even look at each other during family events. Some nosy relatives had been questioning them about it, which was embarrassing for the family. So they urged us to at least try to appear more cordial for the sake of family harmony. After our in-laws asked us to try and get along, I was willing to put the past behind us. It's been a long time since high school ended, and I felt it was about time for us to move on. I told them that I was okay with the idea, and Cheryl and I shook on it like adults. Of course, it wasn't like we were going to become best friends overnight, but we decided to at least be cordial to each other at family events, instead of giving each other the cold shoulder, as we had done before. For the past year, ever since that discussion with my in-laws, things have been going relatively well. Whenever Cheryl and I met, we would greet one another and then move on with our day. I genuinely thought we had agreed to leave our bad blood in the past. However, Cheryl pulled something really mean again this year, a couple of months ago on my birthday of all days. She showed up empty handed, which was fine. But while I was unwrapping everyone else's presents, she announced that her gift to me was cooking lessons. She even sent me an online program that she purchased right there at the party. She said it was supposed to be a joke, but I didn't laugh, and neither did anyone else. To provide some context, Cheryl's gift was incredibly insulting because I had done all the cooking for the day by myself. Even though I'm not a professional chef, I've always loved being in the kitchen and experimenting with new recipes. It's been a hobby of mine ever since I was a child. Her claiming to give me cooking lessons after enjoying an entire meal prepared by me was just plain mean. Everyone knew I had done all the cooking because Charlie had announced it, and I had put in a lot of hard work. I had been up since 6 in the morning to ensure everything was perfect, so her comment really hurt. Cheryl's comments on my birthday really hurt my feelings, and even after she clarified that it was a joke, nobody seemed to laugh. A few people forced out a chuckle just to make her drop it, but she didn't stop. She kept insisting that she was just joking, yet continued to say that I needed cooking lessons because everything she had eaten that day made her feel queasy. She claimed she felt like she was going to throw up at any moment and joked that everyone needed to clear a path to the bathroom in case she needed to barf. By the end of the evening, Cheryl was getting on my last nerve. I was incredibly relieved when she finally left, especially since she didn't even bother to say goodbye after spending the entire day making jokes at the expense of my cooking skills. The thing is, my cooking isn't even that bad. Charlie told me everything I made was delicious, and so did everyone else. I really don't know what Cheryl was on about. I had begun to believe that Cheryl might turn out to be a decent human being after all, but after my birthday, I decided to go back to ignoring her. She was clearly still stuck in her high school mean girl mode, and someone like her didn't deserve to be on good terms with me. Last week, Cheryl celebrated her birthday, and even though we're not getting along right now, she had to invite me. I had invited her to my party, and it would have been really awkward if Charlie went without me. So, just for the sake of keeping the peace in the family, she extended an invitation. But it turned out to be a big mistake because I decided to give her a taste of her own medicine. For her birthday gift, I gave her a copy of What to Expect When You're Expecting, a classic pregnancy book. My choice was based on a conversation I had overheard. A couple of weeks ago, about 3 weeks back, Cheryl showed up at our house, looking pretty devastated. She insisted on speaking to Charlie in private, so I stepped out of the room while they talked in the living room. However, I couldn't resist eavesdropping on their conversation. I know it's not ethical, but I was really curious to know what was going on and couldn't wait for Charlie to tell me everything later. From what I overheard, Cheryl revealed that she was pregnant. She didn't go into many details, but it was clear she was worried because she didn't feel ready to have a baby. She had come to Charlie seeking advice. He told her that even if she didn't feel prepared, she needed to discuss it with her husband. If after that discussion she still felt unready, they could consider terminating the pregnancy since it was still early on. Charlie thought that talking to her husband might help her feel more at ease and better handle the situation. After comforting her a bit, Cheryl left. Once she was gone, I spoke to Charlie about what I had overheard. We both agreed that her behavior was quite odd. Even if she wasn't ready for a baby, it didn't make sense for her to come to us for help. It almost seemed like she wanted Charlie's assistance in terminating the pregnancy secretly. Charlie, however, was not going to be involved in anything so underhanded. He believed her husband deserved to know about the situation before any decisions were made. While ultimately the choice is hers, she was married, and we felt it was important that her husband be informed first. I thought Cheryl's husband deserved to at least be informed about the situation. Anyway, since that conversation with Charlie, we hadn't heard anything new about her pregnancy. But I decided to play a little prank on her by giving her what to expect when you're expecting as a birthday gift. Luckily, she didn't unwrap the presents in front of everyone at the party. However, it didn't matter in the end because the book ended up getting her into serious trouble, and now there's a chance her husband might leave her. The day after her birthday, Cheryl called me up in tears, accusing me of ruining her life and sabotaging her marriage on purpose. I was completely taken aback and had no idea what she was talking about. I tried to calm her down and get her to explain what was happening, but she was so furious that she just kept yelling. After venting her anger, she hung up without another word. Shortly after, my in-laws called and explained everything. Apparently, Cheryl had been unwrapping all her gifts with her husband when they came across the book I had given her. I had even written a note and attached it to the book, saying that Charlie and I wanted to congratulate her. Cheryl hadn't announced her pregnancy yet, but I just wanted to be mean and mess with her, like she had done to me on my birthday. I truly had no idea it would lead to such serious repercussions. The book led to a massive fight between Cheryl and her husband because, unbeknownst to me, her husband was sterile. There was no way the baby could be his, which meant the pregnancy was proof she had been unfaithful. Apparently, her husband had already been suspicious of her, and the book only confirmed his doubts. Now, nobody in the family knows for sure if Cheryl was actually cheating, but let's be honest, if her husband is biologically incapable of having children, then it seems highly unlikely she wasn't. It's really none of my business what's going on between Cheryl and her husband. All I know is that she came to Charlie expecting him to help her terminate the pregnancy in secret, and now we finally understand why she was so panicked when she spoke to him. She wanted to keep it hidden because her husband closely monitors their finances. As a housewife, whatever Cheryl spends can be traced by him, so she obviously couldn't afford to let that happen. Even withdrawing a large amount of cash would raise suspicion and lead to questions. Cheryl tried really hard to convince her husband that the pregnancy book was just a prank and that there was nothing going on. However, he refused to believe her. He didn't think that Charlie and I would make a joke like that unless there was something behind it, so he asked Cheryl to leave. Now she's living with her parents. My in-laws called me because they wanted me to speak to her husband and convince him that the book was just a prank meant to mess with Cheryl. They hoped I could persuade him to talk to Cheryl and work things out because he already suspected her of cheating, and this incident further fueled his doubts. They believe that I'm to blame for the situation and that I shouldn't have done what I did, but I don't see it that way, so my in-laws and I have been at odds for the past week. I think I was perfectly justified in my actions, considering how Cheryl behaved at my birthday party. I truly had no idea that it would lead to such drama, so I don't think I should take the fall for that. If Cheryl didn't want trouble in her marriage, she should have stayed loyal to her husband. It's not fair to blame me for her actions. Charlie feels the same way. Charlie feels the same way I do, although he does think that giving Cheryl the pregnancy book might have been a bit too much compared to the jokes she made at my birthday party. Either way, he doesn't believe I need to apologize to Cheryl or speak to her husband about any of this. However, my in-laws are adamant that we need to fix the situation because her marriage is at stake. They keep arguing with us, insisting that if we don't convince Cheryl's husband that this was just a joke, they might end up getting divorced, and that wouldn't be good for the family. But I believe that if Cheryl really was pregnant when she came to speak to Charlie that day, and her husband is sterile, then she has definitely been cheating. If that's the case, we don't want to defend her or get involved in any capacity. Besides, the book was just payback for the jokes she cracked at my birthday, and I had no idea it would lead to something like this. So it's not like I did anything on purpose, and I have nothing to be sorry for. Despite this, everyone is acting as if I'm the villain, the mastermind who had this evil plan to destroy her on purpose or something. It's really strange, and now I'm starting to doubt my decisions. Hi, everyone. It's been 2 weeks since I gave Cheryl the book, and up until now, we've been refusing to speak to her husband. We plan to stick to that decision in the future as well. From what we've gathered, Cheryl was actually cheating on her husband with another man. I'm not sure who, but I suspect it might be someone from high school and, worse, someone from Charlie's circle of friends. A few days ago, we had a conversation, or rather, an argument, with Cheryl over the phone. She said it was unfair that she was being held responsible for all the chaos that had ensued. Cheryl argued that Charlie's friend was equally responsible for the affair, yet he wasn't facing any backlash and was even refusing to stand up for her. Charlie has quite a few married friends from high school, so we don't know exactly who she's talking about, but that's not our biggest problem right now. My in-laws have been very difficult to deal with, insisting that I need to talk to Cheryl's husband before he files for divorce. I don't think he's actually done it yet. He just keeps threatening to, but if he really wanted to separate, he should have done it already. I don't understand what he's waiting for. They believe there's still time, and if I talk to him, I might convince him not to leave Cheryl, explaining that the book was just a prank. However, I refuse to get dragged into this drama. I have nothing to do with the affair and just want to sit back and relax, but my in-laws have been making that very difficult. Yesterday, Charlie and I made the tough decision to block all three of them because their constant bothering was too much. It's been nearly 2 weeks of this, and we can't keep talking to them and trying to make them understand our perspective. I know some people thought it wasn't nice of me to give Cheryl that book, but she was a bully to me in high school. I don't think I need to feel bad for what I did, especially since she was cheating. But it's a free country, and people are allowed to disagree with me. Hi, it's been 3 days since my last update, and we finally figured out who Cheryl was having the affair with. The friend of Charlie that she had been referring to it turns out the man Cheryl had the affair with was one of Charlie's closest friends, which was completely unexpected. Over the past 2 weeks, Charlie had been venting to his friends about how unreasonable his family had been, and I guess his friend couldn't take it anymore and decided to come clean. He reached out to Charlie and confessed that he had been having an affair with Cheryl. Apparently, it all started about a year ago, around the time of our wedding. This news was shocking, and we are still struggling to process it. Charlie is very close to his friends, and a betrayal like this was something we never anticipated. This friend of his has been married for 3 years, and from what we've seen, he and his wife seem genuinely in love. I know the woman personally, and she can't stop talking about how much she loves her husband. I really feel bad for her. Charlie and I immediately decided to cut him off, and we're not planning on telling anyone about this right now since we don't want to defame him. However, we're definitely not going to entertain this any further. We even advised him to come clean to his wife, as she's the one who truly deserves to know the truth. No one should have to go through something like this. To add to everything, he even sent us proof of Cheryl cheating on her husband with him. This confirmed our decision to stay out of this drama and keep ourselves removed from the situation. Nothing good would come out of it for us, so we've decided to keep them blocked, and that's going to be our final decision. As far as we know, no one else is aware of the affair, and everyone assumes we're on good terms with my in-laws. Charlie's relatives seem to know nothing about the drama happening behind the scenes. I'm guessing they're keeping things under wraps because this entire situation is pretty embarrassing for the family, and they seem reluctant to ruin their reputation. It might seem like a shallow reason, but I actually appreciate their concern about public perception. It's helping us keep everything quiet, which is a relief because we don't want to deal with outsiders right now. We have enough on our plates as it is. One of Charlie's cousins is getting married in a few weeks, so they'll have to attend that wedding. Given the current situation, we're not sure if my in-laws or Cheryl will be there, but if they do choose to attend, it's going to be awkward for everyone involved. Hey, it's been almost 2 months since my last update, and not much has happened during this time. After we blocked my in-laws, we sort of forgot about them. There's been no news from their end, and they didn't try to reach out to us. There was no pregnancy announcement or divorce announcement either, so we assumed Cheryl and her husband might have worked things out. Good for them, I guess, but we don't really care about their marital issues. Both Charlie and I know that cheating rarely stays hidden forever, and when her husband finally discovers the truth, Cheryl will get what she deserves. As for the pregnancy, we assume she must have terminated it somehow. Anyway, whatever happened is no longer our concern, so we've stuck to our own business. That was until a couple of days ago when we attended Charlie's cousin's wedding. All of Charlie's family was there, including my in-laws, Cheryl, and her husband. When we arrived, we completely ignored each other and acted as if the others didn't exist. Of course, the rest of the family noticed the tension. It didn't take long for everyone to notice that something was off, and soon enough people started approaching us with all sorts of questions. They tried to be subtle, but it was clear they were trying to get the scoop on what was going on. Despite their attempts, we decided to keep to ourselves and not engage with their inquiries. We hoped that by avoiding the spotlight, we could prevent any further disruptions. Cheryl, however, took a different approach. Instead of keeping quiet, she began to openly gossip and make disparaging remarks about us, even though she knew we were aware of the truth behind the situation. We were staying at the hotel for 3 days, and we figured it was only a matter of time before we could go home and leave the drama behind. We were prepared to tolerate her presence, but Cheryl's comments quickly escalated into something much worse. Her remarks became so hurtful and inflammatory that we felt we had no choice but to confront her. Unfortunately, this confrontation led to a very public and dramatic showdown between our families during the rehearsal dinner. I deeply regret that this happened, especially since it was supposed to be someone else's special day. Charlie and his cousin had always been on good terms, and it's disheartening that our issues overshadowed their celebration. After the scene at the rehearsal dinner, we realized we couldn't stay any longer and decided to leave before the wedding even took place. We've since made several attempts to apologize to Cheryl, and she has claimed to be okay with it, but we still feel incredibly guilty about the whole situation. On the other hand, Cheryl and my in laws haven't even bothered to apologize to Charlie's cousin, despite being the root cause of all the drama. At least we left voluntarily. They were actually asked to leave by other family members after we departed. It was quite satisfying to hear from Charlie's cousin about the situation the day before her wedding while we were on the phone apologizing. It felt like a small measure of justice given the turmoil we'd been through. The whole situation, which began with what was intended as a prank, ended up causing far more drama than we ever anticipated. Now, we're left dealing with the fallout, and it's become clear that this whole mess has had a far reaching impact on our family dynamics. The conflict escalated because Cheryl had been telling all the relatives and anyone who would listen that we were trying to ruin her marriage by spreading lies about her cheating. She claimed that we had been unsuccessful in sabotaging her relationship, but that wasn't true at all. We had no interest in meddling in her marital issues. In fact, we had been ready to overlook everything since it was someone else's wedding, and we didn't want to make a scene. However, Cheryl took things further by accusing us of having an open marriage and trying to start a relationship with her husband. She suggested that my jealousy of her was the real reason for the tension. This was something we couldn't ignore. On the evening of the rehearsal dinner, we decided to confront her. I revealed all the evidence we had received from Charlie's friend, the screenshots I had been keeping to myself. It was time to defend ourselves and set the record straight. Now that her husband knows the truth, he can no longer deny it. Whether he chooses to leave Cheryl or stay is up to him, but at least the truth is out, and no one can doubt us anymore. We had the decency to leave on our own terms, avoiding being thrown out like Cheryl and my in-laws were. It was a rough few days, but we're trying to move on. The entire family now knows what kind of person Cheryl is, and I genuinely feel sorry for her husband. Despite his attempts to reconcile with her, it seems to have been in vain. I hope he finds the peace and happiness he deserves. If her husband chooses to stay with Cheryl after all this, it would only show that he has no self-respect or dignity. Cheryl had been accusing us of sabotaging her marriage for so long, and when we finally decided to reveal the truth, she had to face the consequences of her actions. She should have known that Charlie and I have always stood up to her since high school, and we weren't about to back down now. We've made it clear that we're not afraid of her, so she should have expected this. So it's official. 2 weeks after returning from Charlie's cousin's wedding, I heard from a few relatives that Cheryl and her husband are getting a divorce. Cheryl has publicly requested everyone to respect their privacy during this tough time and claimed it was a mutual decision to part ways. It's infuriating to see her spin such a false narrative when her entire family knows the real story and why they're splitting up. We'll respect her privacy, but it's clear that everyone is already aware of what happened. Even her friends got wind of the situation because Charlie told some of his friends, and the gossip spread from there. We don't regret what we did. Cheryl had been spreading lies about us and bullying us for too long. If she wants to go low, we're prepared to go lower. She's always been a bully. And we believe that exposing her was the right thing to do because someone needed to stand up to her. It's happening. It's been 2 weeks since we came back from Charlie's cousin's wedding, and today I learned from a few relatives that Cheryl and her husband are getting divorced. She's asking everyone to respect their privacy during this difficult time and is claiming it's a mutual decision. What a load of nonsense. It's clear to everyone who was at the wedding and knows what really happened that their divorce is a direct result of the chaos we were forced into. We'll respect her privacy as requested, but it's pretty obvious what's behind the curtain. Even her friends have caught wind of the truth because Charlie shared the details with some of his close friends, and it spread from there. We don't regret what we did one bit. Cheryl had been a bully for years, and if taking her down a peg makes us the bad guys in some eyes, we can live with that. Our in-laws have now decided to cut us out of their lives entirely, even going so far as to have their lawyer notify Charlie that they're going no contact and will likely be excluding us from the inheritance. We're not about to grovel for forgiveness. We aren't easily bought with money, and frankly, they should keep it all to themselves. They'll need it to support Cheryl, who has depended on her parents or husband for financial support since graduating. If they want to keep their money and Cheryl with them, that's fine by us. We stand by our actions and won't pretend to be sorry for them. Charlie and I are perfectly content with our lives, and we're not concerned about anyone else's opinions or decisions.